describe The Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom in one word, it would be dangerous. Not because this game is hard or scary, but because I would not put it down. I love Echoes of Wisdom, but that's not how I felt beforehand. In fact, before playing this game, I had lots of mixed emotions. I was hoping for and honestly expecting another top-down Zelda this year. I mean, we got the Link's Awakening remake not long after Breath of the Wild, and although releases can be unpredictable, it makes sense for the Zelda team to drop smaller, top-down games as fans wait for the next big 3D Zelda. So, I expected another remake. But what we got instead was a whole new top-down Zelda, and this time it's a Zelda game. So I was really excited. But then I kept watching the trailer, and to my dismay, Echoes of Wisdom follows the same design philosophy in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom that puts player freedom above all else. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the gameplay of Wild and Tears, and it is so addictive and rewarding. But with such a vast world to explore, fun mechanics will only get you so far. Emphasis on player freedom in Tears and Wild comes at the expense of each story's narrative, and more importantly, player discovery. You may be thinking, how is that possible when those games are literally all about exploration? Well, I think it comes down to the game mechanics. In Tears and Wild, you're given all the tools you need at the start of the game. So once you fall into a rhythm, the gameplay loop doesn't really change. While in past titles, every new dungeon came with new items, which made each of them exciting to explore. So even though Tears and Wild both have big, beautiful worlds, there's not really much to find in them. Not anything of significance anyway. All of this to say, the cards were stacked against Echoes when I picked it up. My love for the Breath of the Wild formula grew stale after playing Tears of the Kingdom, and I thought a new top-down Zelda game would be a welcome return to the classic Zelda form. Echoes of Wisdom isn't that, but it is shaping up to be a perfect marriage of the classic and modern formula. And once again, it all comes down to the game mechanics. At first glance, the Tri-Rod may seem like Ultra Hand in a different font, but unlike Ultra Hand, you are always finding new echoes. Now, I'm not far enough into Echoes to talk story in great detail, but when it comes to gameplay, this game nails the feeling of discovery and exploration. Not only is there something new to find in every part of the map, but the echoes you do find vary by region. This achieves the same feeling of surprise and satisfaction players get in the old games after reaching dungeon-specific items. Traveling through each region is worthwhile because you'll find mobs with abilities tailored to that terrain. Playing through each region looks and feels different because of the echoes, making each area distinct and memorable. But echoes are only one part of the game, and they're not the only tools at Zelda's disposal. Zelda can also bind objects and transform. To avoid spoilers, I won't tell you how she transforms, but all you really need to know about binding and transforming is that these mechanics perfectly round out Zelda's arsenal. If you're worried that echoes may give Zelda a passive feel, you'll be happy to know that the other two mechanics let you actively interact with the items and foes of Hyrule. And speaking of Hyrule, the world building so far is okay. I'm happy to see old races like the Deku Scrubs and the River Zora return in this game, but aside from that, this version of Hyrule doesn't really have a unique identity. Again, I'm not far into the story, so my opinion might change, but there's also art direction, soundtrack, and dialogue that add to the game's immersion. The toy-like style in Echoes is cute, sure, but it's not expressive. The soundtrack is charming and whimsical, but it's kind of generic to other titles. Zelda games may not have the most intricate stories, but even smaller games like Link's Awakening have a unique theme and atmosphere. Since Echoes reuses assets from Link's Awakening, dialogue becomes key to setting it apart from other games. In past titles, Link is a silent protagonist, but we still get to learn about him and his world through NPC dialogue, like in Majora's Mask, where each citizen of Termina reacts differently to the moon crashing down, or in Twilight Princess, where Midna's story highlights the differences between the Twilight Realm and Hyrule. So far though, Echoes takes neither of those routes. Zelda's companion Tri just pops up, tells Zelda they need to save the kingdom together, and that's about it. Tri has no personality and is really only there as a game mechanic. Other NPCs may have a thing or two to say about the rifts popping up, but there's little dialogue variety and once again, just no personality. And I think it really sucks because with Zelda as a protagonist, the developers had the opportunity to explore wisdom as a theme instead of courage. Also, Zelda is a princess, so maybe she could have used her wits to gather allies across Hyrule. Zelda could have had a mentor who teaches her skills throughout her journey, or maybe an opponent who tries to outsmart her. Maybe the story unfolds like a mystery where Zelda is exploring Hyrule to find a solution to the rifts. As the story is now, though, there's no difference between Link and Zelda's adventures. I love the gameplay of Echoes of Wisdom. The mechanics fix open-world fatigue, reward exploration, and add puzzle sequences reminiscent of old titles. In that regard, Echoes is a perfect marriage of linear and open-world gameplay. But the Zelda team also needs to treat the story as a priority instead of an afterthought if they truly want to give players absolute freedom. Now, I will be playing this game to completion, and I guarantee I'll have fun doing it. But at the end of the day, I expected more from it. I'm so happy the Zelda team cared to make mechanics that suited her character, but unfortunately, that's where the character building stops in Echoes of Wisdom. The soundtrack and art direction do nothing for the game's atmosphere, while the dialogue fails to make the first playable Zelda game a unique experience. That's it for my review. Thanks for tuning in, and check out Echoes of Wisdom to form your own opinion.